All right, once again, my name is Professor Waters. I'm the program chair for the Articulated Valencia College and UCF Bachelor of Design and Architecture program. We're going to go through just kind of some nuts and bolts of about the program, a little bit about where students go academically after the program, and then there'll be time for questions. So along the way, if you'd please just allow me to go through the presentation. If you have questions along the way, go ahead and put them in chat, or you can raise your hands and we'll come back to those questions and get all of them once I'm through with the presentation. But our program, so the 2+2+2 is an academic partner. It's called it, you'll often hear the architecture program referred to as the 2+2+2. What that means is that it is an academic partnership between three different institutions: Valencia College for the AA level, the University of Central Florida for the bachelor level, and then if you choose to attend the University of Florida, they have a Master's of Architecture program here in Orlando. A lot of our students do choose to attend the University of Florida City Lab program here in downtown Orlando for their master's degree. But as you'll see in later slides, also many of our students decide to go elsewhere for their master's degree too. There's a lot of, you could kind of think of it this way, each place where you see a plus in the 2+2+2, our goal is to give you options to craft the best education for yourself as you move towards becoming an architecture professional. Okay, so looking forward in this, the pre-professional degree prepares students to become design employees, pursue advanced professional architecture degrees, which can lead to licensure. Graduates of this program are well equipped for a competitive design workforce. I have to say that many of our students, not many of them, all of our students encounter a very robust and receptive professional architecture community here in Central Florida. And we see that as a plus, not just for future employers, and they see it as a plus for as future employees, but also just kind of a rich architectural atmosphere that you have, a rich architectural atmosphere that is growing that you have in Central Florida. As I said earlier, many of our students decide to go to the University of Florida's City Lab Masters of Architecture program located in downtown Orlando, but we have our goal is to equip our students to be competitive into any market in which they want to go into any academic market in which they go into. So these are some examples of universities that students matriculate to. There's just a small smattering of those universities: Cornell, UT Austin, Harvard, Pratt, UC Berkeley, Georgia Tech, and there are others as well. I put my, as you know, I put my email in the chat. So if you have questions about some other universities that students get into, because there have been universities even out of the country that students have decided to go to, I'm happy to answer those questions as well. Don't know why that keeps happening to me, but oops. Okay. All right. So I assume that many, if not most of you on the call today are UCF students. And what that means is that by the way, go Knights, charge on. But what that also means is that you'll be taking your architecture courses as transient students, at least for the first 2 years at Valencia College, because all the 1,000 and 2,000 level courses are offered by Valencia College. So to take Valencia courses as a UCF student, you'll need to submit a transient application through Florida Shines for each semester with requested classes. Get your application in early, ahead of registration period, way far ahead of registration period, to avoid delays and to minimize chance of any enrollment issues. That's something I really want to read that last sentence again as you begin this kind of architecture journey, so to speak. Get your transient application in early, ahead of registration period, to avoid any delays and to minimize the chance of enrollment issues. So a little bit about requirements for the program. So again, the Valencia College program covers the prerequisites, both in architecture and otherwise. So prior to entering the UCF component, the 2,000 and 3,000 level courses at UCF, you need to complete all your lower division ARC architecture prefix courses. You need to make sure that you complete physics, college physics, PHY 2053 with a lab. and completion of general education program in Gordon Rule. And then also you'll need to you'll need to participate in the Pinup review for admission into the upper division. So I said compete. The Pinup is a competitive process, and we'll talk more about the Pinup. It's not something that I would tell you to put at the very fore of your mind right now, but I would certainly know about it. And as you move closer to the Pinup, there'll be more information. We have sessions the semester of Pinup that are designed to help students help themselves be as successful as possible through that process. So the design sequence at Valencia for the 1000 and 2000 level courses, these courses, the designs 1, 2, 3, and 4 are really what I consider somewhat of the kind of educational backbone of the curriculum around which all the other architecture courses, for lack of a better word, oscillate. So you have Design 1, it's a 4-credit course. It is offered, and this is really, really important to know. Architecture Design 1 is offered in the fall. It is offered in the spring, and it is offered in the summer as a Summer A course. Okay. Architecture Design 1 is followed immediately by Architecture Design 2. It is offered in the spring and offered in the summer. So to sort of pause here and explain a little bit, if you're registered into Design 1 in the fall, you can be registered into Design 2 in the spring. If I should say that a little bit better. If you're registered into Design 1 in the fall and you pass and you want to be registered into Design 2 that next spring, that will happen. I can't guarantee you which particular section you will be in, but I can guarantee you that if you're registered into Design 1, you pass Design 1 and you want to be registered into Design 2 the next semester, in this scenario, it would be in the spring, you will be registered into Design, you will get registered into Design 2. Okay, so let's say that you're unable to register into Design 1 in the fall semester for whatever reason, or you choose to start later. You can register into Design 1 in the spring semester, follow that up with Design 2, then in the summer semester. Let's say that you choose not to start your architecture path until the summer. You can take Design 1 and 2 over the summer, Design 1 Summer A, Design 2 Summer B, and then you will notice in all of those scenarios, you are set to take Design 3 in the fall, and then Design 4 that following spring, and then you're set to participate in Pinup and hopefully matriculate into the upper division at UCF in the fall of the next year. These are the courses that kind of move around the design sequence. These courses have a little bit more flexibility, at least at the Valencia level. They are offered, many of them, not all of them, but many of them are offered just about every semester that classes run. And right now, because of the current situation that we are in as a society, they are all offered online. I think that as we start to achieve more, lack of a better word, normalcy, some of these classes will come back to face-to-face modality, but I really can't imagine a time where they still won't be offered in an online format as well as a face-to-face format. So architecture theory, architecture history 1, history 2, introduction to digital architecture, and materials and methods of construction. Again, the important thing here, or one of the important things to remember, is that these classes, there's a great deal of flexibility in terms of when you can take these classes. Unlike the design courses that we just talked about previously, you have to take 2 after 1, 3 after 2, and 4 after 3. These classes can oscillate around the design classes. Now, I should put a caveat in here. You do have to take history 2 after history 1, but there's a great deal of flexibility when you can take these classes. Right, so here's a typical kind of outlook of a track through the architecture education at Valencia College. If you were to start in the fall of 2022, Design 1, you could take Design 1, Theory, History of Architecture 1 in the spring, Design 2, History of Architecture 2, then in the next fall, Design 3, Intro to Digital Architecture, then you'll be set to participate in the Pinup in the spring of 2024, while you also take Design 4 and Materials and Methods. Also know that These aren't the only courses that you have to take. Remember, you also have to take your general ed Gordon Rule classes as well. So those classes need to plug in here as well. I will just add something in here. You know, oddly enough, maybe, it's never an architecture class that keeps me up at night worrying, is a student going to get that architecture class? Is a student going to, pass that architecture class? That's never what really keeps me up worrying at night. What keeps me up worrying is that students sometimes put off taking their favorite, and I put that in quotation marks, their favorite class like physics until the very end, and then they decide they like it so much they're going to take it again, and then that might preclude them from starting or matriculating on time into the UCF upper division. And I can come back to that if you have any questions about that, but that's a big theme in my architecture school life. So a little bit about the pinup process. And again, this is not something to actively worry about right now. You're just kind of at the very outset of your architecture journey, if you will, but it's certainly something to know about. And remember, as you get closer to this event, that there will be more kind of workshops and informational sessions designed to help yourself move through that process and ultimately hopefully have a successful pinup. So the UCF Architecture Bachelor Design is a competitive limited access program. So once you go from the 1,000 level to 2,000 level courses at Valencia, once you move into UCF, it is a competitive process. Again, limited access program. In order to be eligible for an invitation, all the prerequisites that we just talked about must be completed by the summer before, successfully completed by the summer before classes start in the fall semester in which you plan to matriculate. Invitations into the cohort are limited. We accept 40 students per year for fall semester only. There's a little bit less flexibility in terms of when the classes are off. There is less flexibility in terms of when the classes are offered at UCF. However, registration into those architecture classes in the upper division is a much, for lack of a better word, easier process because it is a limited access cohort. And then in the pinup, students are ranked based on the following criteria: architectural GPA, pinup review scores, and your cumulative GPA. Notice that extra weight is given to your architecture GPA and your pinup review score, that doesn't mean just, don't worry about your cumulative GPA, but there is extra weight given to the architecture and the architecture GPA and the pinup review. More about the pinup review. So students participate in pinup during their spring design 4 semester at the very end, typically, always really. This is a digital event in which students produce a comprehensive exhibit showcasing the work they've created throughout their time in the major. In this, the work, to be specific about it, calls work from designs 1, 2, with a lot of work from designs 3 and 4. There will be more as we get closer to it, as you get closer to it, there'll be more specifics about the format of this pinup, the digital program that's used for this pinup. It's not something to really worry about right now, but just kind of put it in the back of your head and understand that that's where this kind of is leading up to. So the adjudication or the grading of the pinup is anonymous, and it's done by a team of faculty and also industry professionals who rank each exhibit. And what I should explain a little bit what I mean by anonymous. So in other words, these are blind submissions. Your name, your likeness is not in any way attached to your pinup submission. So the folks that come in and judge you, when they're judging you, she or he has no idea who they're judging. They're just looking at the work and making professional and academic adjudications based on the work that they're seeing. They have no idea whose board it is, digital board it is that they're grading. So again, while this score is not the only criteria that students will be judged upon for entry into the UCF program, it is mandatory. You have to participate in this pinup process to be eligible to matriculate into UCF's upper division. Every, I feel pretty confident saying this, every upper division architecture program has a gateway, something like a pinup or a portfolio review. So this is not at all something that's unusual or unique per se to UCF. in the pinup review, so what the judges look at is the design process. And kind of what I mean by that, I currently am teaching a section of Design 1, and I tell my students, look, folks, save everything that you do in this class, whether it's just a sketch, a final drawing, find a kind of a safe place in your room where your pet isn't going to destroy it, and just start putting your work. So that when it comes time to craft your pinup review, you have more to choose from than less. And then once you're successfully done with your pinup review, you can have a great big bonfire safely or something along those lines, but make sure that you're saving everything prior to going through your pinup review. So the design process is something that's adjudicated, as well as a design resolution, how you come to your, is there a graphic evidence of how you came to your decisions that you made in your design process? And then graphic communication skills. Are you communicating kind of the beginning of your project, the middle of your project, end of your project, and how that, what you learned in that project led to your next work? Again, I really want to emphasize, this is not something for you at all to be worried about or stressed out about, I hope ever, but certainly not right now. It's just something to know about. And as you move closer to your pinup semester, again, more information and something to begin actively thinking about. More information will be forthcoming in the guise of pinup workshops and informational sessions. So I guess we are at a time for questions. I haven't been checking the chat, and I hope I didn't speak too fast, but was there anything, is there anything that I can answer for you?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the alumni that have, gone through successfully through the program and where they are now?
Sure. Well, it's a really good question, because prior to the pandemic, and we're kind of starting this again, we would go on field trips in the community. And one of the great things about going to school in Orlando is that you're going to school in architecture in a place that is rapidly expanding and has a very rich architecture community, a very rich built environment that's growing. So 2 field trips that we went on that I can think about that come to mind prior to the pandemic, both of those were led by former alumni of the program of the 2+2+2. One of those students took us on a behind the scenes field trip to the new South Terminal addition behind the airport. It's a massive project, a fascinating project. He led the tour, and what can I say? It was great. There's an asterisk after that. I'll come back to that. And then another field trip was to the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center. Was the most recent addition to that. That addition was actually the project architect manager of that was also an alumni of our 2+2+2 program. They work at separate firms, but they're both, they have leadership roles in both of those firms. And here's the part that is associated with the asterisk that I was going to come back to. I was very impressed with these students and with these former students, these alumni, now professionals, and with the depth of knowledge that they had. I was so impressed that I thought to myself, wow, I taught them everything that they know. That's not really true. But happily, the architecture program was part of that. And also the rich professional community and the merging of those sort of mindsets really helps to craft well-rounded design architecture professionals. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I see there's some chats. Let me see.
I can take some.
Sure.
So Jessica asked, what is the average number of applicants for the pinup? It does vary from year to year. Sometimes we have about 70 students. Sometimes we have around 95. So it just really depends on how many students are moving through Design 3 and Design 4 at any given time. But we usually don't go anywhere over 100.
Can I add on to that? Can I add on to that? Mm-hmm. That's a perfect answer, but I know that people, I've gotten this question recently from students, so it's kind of fresh on my mind. they asked me, is, how many students apply each year? How many people apply? Honestly, I don't know until the day of pinup, really. Not really how many people are going to apply. So there's not like this magic number sitting around on my desk. This is exactly how many. I don't know until, but those numbers that Melissa Choinski just quoted are absolutely accurate.
Yeah, I mean, it really does depend not just on who's in design 3 and design 4, but who's ready. There are some students who are in their last design, but who still have all 5 of the supporting courses that they need to take, or who know that they won't be ready to take physics. So some of those students may participate in pinup because they're in design, but they may save their score for a following year, and they may not actually be part of the competitive process. So that number it varies a lot. And then Sarah asked about IDS and its second time pinning up. If you don't get in again, Sarah, I think I need a little bit more clarification on yours. So maybe we can talk off screen about that, or you can DM me in the chat here, just to make sure I'm understanding exactly what you're asking. Okay, and then Samuel asks, is there any history of equivalent courses offered at institutions outside of the 2+2+2? So that's a bit of a complicated question. There are courses at other state colleges that have the same course number, they participate in the common course numbering system, and so they are considered equivalent. Some institutions have a closer curriculum to ours than others. So it just really depends on what college you're looking at, whether you're going to get the same content in those equivalent courses, or if you're going to have a different experience.
So yeah, if I was a high school student interested in architecture, what would be the next steps? What would you suggest?
Are you, would you be a high school senior, junior? Are you interested in starting college right away, or you've got a few years to plan for this?
I've got another year or two.
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, if you have another year or two, this year, for the first time, it looks like we probably will be offering an architecture camp, a day camp, in coordination with another day camp that we will be running. This has run for multiple summers, called Create, and that will probably run downtown. I'm being kind of vague about this because I don't know all the specifics, and this is kind of hot off the presses, so that's an option. Also, aside from that, if you've got a couple of years out from when you graduate and you start this, I would just sort of pay attention to kind of architecture blogs, get a book on an architect that you're interested in. Doesn't matter to me who it is that you're interested in. Just, go around and look at buildings, maybe talk to some architects. There's lots of them in town. Feel free to email me. I think the 2 words is just kind of stay interested in architecture and sort of begin to think about what architecture means to you and what it kind of is in the broader sphere. But certainly, I would certainly be happy to sort of chat with you just about architecture, and then sort of your path forward, whether you choose to come to Valencia and the UCF path, or whether you're thinking about other places as well. I'll be happy to chat with you about that.
That's something that you should really be aware of is, deadlines for your application. Make sure that you're staying involved. If you're interested in starting at UCF as a freshman, or Valencia, that you know where you need to begin, what's the best option for you, because there are 2 different paths to move through that part. You can start at Valencia as an AA student, or you can start at UCF and take those classes transiently and then work on your general education at UCF. So knowing which path is going to be best for you, either if that's, contacting an advisor like me, talking to somebody through admissions, just so that you know which option you want to move through, so that you're ready when those deadlines do come towards you.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So if I were interested in doing the transient route through UCF, I would contact you, I guess.
I'm the coordinator for the program, and
And then if I wanted to do the Valencia route, who would I
so
contact?
So right now we're a little bit between advisors over at Valencia. So the best thing to do would be to contact either the Valencia Architecture Department, which is the Valencia Advising Office, or the College of Arts and Humanities at Valencia, so that they can give you to the best person possible.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have a link to, do they have a email address or a website?
Sure, I'll drop that in the chat.
Thank you.
I see there's a question from Samuel Yip regarding you finished your first degree for architectural studies in Australia. It's fun, 3-year program. So Samuel, I think it would be best if you and I and perhaps Melissa could chat offline, like we could schedule a time to talk, because I think it sounds like you have a rather layered sort of educational thing, and I want to make sure that we head you in the right direction. So if you could send an email to me at that email that I posted earlier, donald.waters@ucf.edu, I'll put it back in the chat again. I think that would be best. Okay.
Just another question that I've gotten a lot from other students. Students who are interested in interior design. Is this something that they should, is this a pathway they should go through to get to that? Like, what do you suggest for students who are interested in interior design?
I would suggest for students interested in anything, but certainly interior design, just to do some kind of research about where those programs are at universities, because an interior design program is not the kind of program that's at a lot of different universities. I know the University of Florida has an interior design program, and maybe Florida A&M. Otherwise, I'm not aware of any interior design programs in the state of Florida, although I could be wrong about that. I will say that having a bachelor of design program or even your AA is helpful in terms of getting into an interior design program, because in some ways, interior design program is similar in its academic structure to an architecture program. There is for lack of a better term, kind of a pinup review to get into interior design programs. But first and foremost, I'm not an expert in interior design programs, but I would, again, I say that the Bachelor of Design, the AA is helpful for that, but also just to kind of, just Google interior design programs. If you're interested in Florida interior design programs, Florida interior design programs, nationally, and just kind of do research in terms of what's going to help you kind of get where you want to go with regards to that program, geographically and otherwise.
Thank you.
So I see another question from Samuel about students who want to view examples of Pinup. I'm going to drop 2 links in the chat here. The first is for the 2021 UCF Pinup Review Gallery that was put together because we had a virtual pinup this past year. You can be in a gallery space virtually walking around and see all the examples from all of the candidates. The top 10 boards are marked so that you can see who got the highest scores on those boards. And then the second link is to our Instagram page. For previous years, where you can see some of the examples of what students produced for those pinups as well.
Is the architecture program associated with any organizations that are local or internationally?
Sure. So there are 2 student organizations associated with the architecture program at Valencia College and UCF. And while I say there's 2 organizations, they oftentimes run concurrently. It's called the American Institute of Architecture Students. It's kind of the student organization that's akin to the American Institute of Architects, which is the professional organization. Recently, with our AIAS, American Institute of Architecture Students chapter, there was a tour to the Winter Park Public Library, which is under construction, in the final stages of construction right now. And it's been designed by a very famous architect. If you've been to Washington, D.C. in the last 10 years or so, he's the same architect who designed the latest Smithsonian Museum, African American history on the National Mall. So it's kind of a really great project, and our AIS is very robust in terms of also organizing field trips locally and otherwise. We've gone with the AIS a number of years ago now, but the AIS traveled to Toronto for conferences, less far-flung places like South Carolina and Miami as well. But it's a robust organization that also, helps with networking for students as they move on to being professionals.
Hi, so one of the questions we get a lot is there transportation between the main campus and Valencia West Campus? So if you can address that.
Sure. I wish there was. Selfishly, I wish there was for me, so I could hop on it and go from the West Campus of Valencia out to UCF. There currently isn't. That doesn't mean that there always won't be, but there currently isn't that transportation. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but that's the lay of the land right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit about the faculty that we have on staff and what their specialty and backgrounds are?
Sure. So I actually think one of the it's a strongly held conviction of mine that one of the strongest components of the program, both at Valencia and UCF, is our faculty. There are full-time professors such as myself, my colleague Courtney Baldwin at Valencia College, and my colleagues, my full-time professor colleagues at UCF, Professor Matt Johnson and Professor Tommy James. There are also a host of dedicated adjunct professors who are professionals in architecture firms. In fact, one of the folks, the alumni that I mentioned that gave us a tour of the South Terminal at the Orlando International Airport, he's currently an adjunct for us at Valencia College. And I think it's really a great thing that you have professors who have a foot in academia and a foot in professional practice, so that they kind of bring the best of those both worlds to the classroom. And they also, it's not unheard of that a student will be in a professor's class, a professor who works also as a professional, and they will find employment or an internship opportunity with that professor's firm. She also spend some time and talk a little bit about our professors at UCF. One of the great things about UCF is, one of the many great things about UCF is a research institution. And so those two professors, Professor James and Professor Johnson, both have their own unique research agendas, and students every semester help them and themselves with those research agendas. And so by helping the professor with their particular research agenda, the student is also exposed to a sort of well-rounded education and introduction to many different facets of architecture. I see that there's another question that says students also often ask about housing options as an architecture student. I'm not sure.
I can take a little bit about that if you'd like.
That would be great.
Yeah, so it sort of depends on how you begin the program, whether or not you will be able to participate in dorms. If you start as a UCF student, you'll be able to dorm on main campus. However, if you're at Valencia, your dorms on the West Campus, and all of the student sort of affiliated housing in the area is not eligible for financial aid. So that may be one of the considerations when you're sort of discussing with either myself or somebody else about whether you want to start at Valencia or UCF, because if you need a dorm, then UCF may be the best option for you. But again, Valencia does not have dorms on the West Campus. That may change in the future. I know there has been some discussion, but at this time, I would not necessarily count on it.
Is there a way to see the spaces of where the classrooms are and the studios and labs? Do you do any tours over at Valencia?
Sure. So Melissa leads a number of tours as her schedule allows, and I am happy to run tours of the space as well as my schedule allows. Just again, email myself or Melissa, and we'll be happy to schedule that for you as our schedule allows. But we'll certainly be happy to do that. All right, folks. Well, you have my email address. I've put into the chat a couple of times. Also, the links that Melissa Choinski posted are a really good place to look with regards to not just what the pinups look like, but kind of the nature of the work. And to the last question, I'm happy, and Melissa's happy to guide, to take you on a tour. I'm happy to sit and chat with you about architecture, be it just architecture in general or architecture, your architecture path at Valencia, UCF, and beyond. Please don't be shy about reaching out to me, and I will be happy to speak with you. I did see there was one more question from Samuel. If I start as an architecture pending student, but fail Pinup, can I still direct connect to UCF? That's not a me question. I tend to advise folks to be an optimist and not to think that way, but I will see. I think Melissa was shaking her head because she might be able to give you a more nuts and bolts answer than what I just did.
Yeah, so direct connect is totally separate from the major. As long as you're receiving your AA degree from a partner institution, which Valencia is, and you have over a 2.0 GPA, you're guaranteed admission to UCF. So that's totally separate from the major. The major, obviously, you have to get that acceptance through Pinup, but you would still be considered for admission to UCF and able to either, if you wanted to change your major at that point, pursue a minor, however you wanted to fill that time, you could definitely do that.
And for the online courses, how many % of students are studying onshore and offshore right now? I'm not sure what that means per se. Onshore and offshore, do you mean, could you perhaps clarify what you mean by that, Samuel? Oh, online versus in person, sure. So we have made a conscious decision to bring our studio classes back to face-to-face. So all the studio classes at UCF, designs 5, 6, 5, and 7 right now, and then in the spring 6 and 8, those are entirely face-to-face. We feel that's an important decision academically. It's something that the students want. It's something that the professors want. And at Valencia, we have brought back the majority of our classes. Our studio classes have a face-to-face component. We've scheduled them as hybrid. There are a couple of sections of studio classes, specifically in Design 1, that are still online because students we found out that students, it's a good way for students to learn in Design 1, and there are some students who do best and appreciate that learning environment. Our other classes are 3-credit classes that sort of oscillate around the studio classes. Right now, again, they're entirely online right now. My thought is that many of those classes will remain with online modalities, but where we can, we will also bring those classes back face-to-face as well. So there is that option for students to do face-to-face and online only modality. All right, well, I have enjoyed spending my afternoon with you. Again, I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And I appreciate you being here and spending the afternoon talking about architecture. And thank you for everybody else being here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Ciao.